What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm back to talk about game preservation, something I've actually talked quite a bit about on my third channel, Back to the Past, where I look at old games and talk about them and do retrospectives. And, as this year has gone on, I've become a really big, I think, fighter in the game preservation movement. Now, what we're talking about today is not necessarily game preservation and what Sony is doing, but it makes the point of why preservation is so important in all media, and against a digital future. Now, I'm going to refer to it for games, but you could look at this for television, movies, and in fact, the case that we're talking about here is literally television. So what are we talking about? Well, it's specific to PlayStation here because technically you could watch this in other ways, and you don't have to buy it through PlayStation, but this is through Discovery, and they issued a statement as of December 31st, 2023, due to our content licensing arrangements with content providers, you'll no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and the content will be removed from your video library. We sincerely thank you for your continued support. Thank you, PlayStation Store. What a slap to the freaking face. By the way, that is a terrible, that's not an apology. It's literally, I guess, just literally a statement of saying, hey, your content's about to be removed. We're not really sorry. Thank you for buying it from us, and we'll see you next time. Come back tomorrow. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. Now, yeah, you can make this about PlayStation, and we certainly are in this case, but this is not for those people that are going to say, well, Alex, you're just attacking them. How can you call me a Sony fanboy now, by the way? But no, this is not a console warrior thing. This is not specific, companies. This is all of them. Microsoft does some pretty scummy stuff. PlayStation does some scummy stuff. The industry at large is moving to this future. It's not necessarily about Sony and not necessarily about this story today, but this makes a good point in terms of why you need these things. Now, you could say, well, Alex, and I saw this on Twitter where people were saying most people understand, which I'm very glad to see. Some people said, well, who's buying Discovery shows on PlayStation anyway? That's a fair point. This is maybe affecting the 5 people that actually do this. But, without exaggerating and without making jokes of it, this is a pretty serious issue. With situations like this, and really going towards an all-digital future, you're renting things, even when you buy them, quote-unquote, buying them digitally. And that's why I've been so freaking against. And even though, you can call me a hypocrite. In fact, I probably deserve it. The Alan Wake 2s of the world, the Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name of the world, I have both of those games. I'm sorry, I really, really am. One of them, I think, Alan Wake was given to me, a review code. Like a Dragon, I think I got through Game Pass. You can call me a hypocrite because, ultimately, I am very much against it. I'm willing to still call it out, although I love those games, and actually Alan Wake 2 is my game of the year. I think I can love the game, but hate the practice, and I do hate the practice of, it's a danger. You have Alan Wake 2, but do you really? Do you really have Alan Wake 2? Because at any point, and yes, it would look terrible for them to do this, but at any point they can say, yeah, we're not feeling it. We're pulling it, and they could issue a statement just like this from Sony. And I think they have the rights, and I'm not saying, is it morally right? It's not. But I think they legally would have the right to do this. That's another thing I saw on Twitter, people saying, well, is this even legal? Can they actually? Of course they can do it. This is the whole point with how stupid the entire system is. With music on Spotify, with movies not even doing physical releases anymore, just all going to streaming or whatever. And you see this with Disney taking, is a Willow? I don't care. I don't pay attention to these things. But the movie they made, and it was online for just a couple months, and it was a complete failure, and they took it down. While, yeah, a lot of people hated it, it was literally a piece of media that was only available through streaming, and it was taken down not even a year after it was put up, and it's just gone. It is there's no way beyond illegal means. You can do illegal means, but beyond that, there's no way of obtaining that anymore. And that is you could ask, is that legal? Well, it shouldn't be. This is not how we should be operating as a society. But we, all of us, not just me being a hypocrite with Alan Wake and a couple other games, but as a society, we have allowed this to happen by allowing the whole digital, going on the PlayStation Store. Now, yes, it's easier and it's more convenient to us by doing it like that. And in a lot of ways, it's improved things. But in a lot of ways of actually owning the freaking thing, it's a huge negative. So this is TV, right? This is a TV situation where you buy whatever from Discovery, or I guess it's literally TV shows. But the movies, I just said, with Disney, we've seen an example of this. Just the fact that they can issue a statement and say, hey, you bought this from us, But at the end of the year, yeah, we're literally going to take them all out. And not only, and like, again, like the statement makes the whole point for me, right? Not only can you not watch it, but they're literally being removed from your library. So you bought them. They should be in your library. You should possess them in that way, but they're gone. They have the final say, and they will literally just remove it from you. So I don't know. I don't know how you see this kind of stuff and say, yep, we're going towards a better future here. This is the right way to move things. And this absolutely is the way that we're going. The scary thing is, and we've seen, like, I've tried to cover this every time that games do this, or on my third channel, Back to the Past, I'll like do a rest in peace video. When Knockout City got taken down 2 years after it released, I made a video on that. When something like Dead Space 2's multiplayer, or Battlefield Bad Company 2, that multiplayer and the first one, when these things get removed, even though, yeah, it's years later. And again, that's how they start, right? Well, removing Dead Space 2's multiplayer, well, you know, the game came out like 10 plus years ago. There's maybe a total of 5 people, literally, and that's not exaggerating. There's maybe 5 people still playing the Dead Space 2 multiplayer, and so they can get away with it. At least, you know, to some people they can get away with it. When in reality, that is a specific case, and you could probably get away with it. But again, that also shows a weakness. That also shows a sign of the times where, well, why is that okay? Why is it okay that a part of a game, or if a game is like always online or only online, say like a Knockout City, the entire game's just gone. You nuke the entire game. You could pay for that. It was on subscription services, all this jazz, and you remove it 2 years after it's come out. So, like, why are we okay with this as a society? I don't know. Like, ultimately, we have done this to ourselves, some more aware of it than others. Again, like, I think the convenience and it just being easy, I get it. Like, I have very little PS5. I have the PS5 with the disc, right? But I have very little PS5 games. I maybe have 5 games physically on PS5. I'm starting to get a lot of PS2 games, a lot of Xbox games, a lot of 360 games, PS3. I'm going backwards. And that's why I made my third channel, and I have probably, oh my God, 250. I have a lot. I have more than I should of very old games. And eventually, that'll be the case with PS4, Xbox One, Series X, and PS5. These things are going to be freaking rare, you know, to get the physical case for a game, because it's just, we're not going that direction. So, I don't know. I don't even know what you do to fight back on it. I guess, really, what some people at least claim they did, and I do believe a lot of the people with, like, Alan Wake, you don't buy it. You know, you just do not buy it. You don't support it. And good on them. Honestly, good on them, because this is something that is going to happen more and more. It happens now with movies quite often, like often enough at least on streaming. You're seeing this literal example with TV shows. Gaming, I try to cover every one, and every year there's at least a couple noteworthy games. Assassin's Creed multiplayer was one, I think, like last year. Every year there's always like something that happens that is somewhat noteworthy of a game being nuked, or the multiplayer part at least being taken down. Not okay. That's not okay. And again, it's not all Sony. Like, for the love of God, don't make this a freaking console warrior thing, because Xbox is just as bad. They're all bad. They're all terrible with this kind of stuff. They don't care. They ultimately do not care. And that's the biggest issue. It's not necessarily like evil. I think some people are evil, and some of the practices maybe are evil, but I think largely, and even people that like support this stuff, I don't think they're evil. I think they just don't think it through all the way. That you do not own. You don't own anything unless it's like in your hand. And maybe that's an exaggeration. You might be able to find ways around, like a house. If you own a house, it's not really in your hand. So there's some ways around that. But in terms of like physical media, or media in general, I should say, not physical, right? I don't think you own it unless you can actually touch it. So a TV show, unless you have that box, deluxe edition, you know, whatever, in your hand, then you don't really own it. The movie, if you don't have the disc, you don't have the 4K Ultra in your hand. Gaming, if you don't have, let me show you an example. If you don't have this game in your hand, this is a good example, by the way. You cannot play this except for on PS3 and Xbox 360. That's it. Not backwards compatible, funny enough, which is odd. Not backwards compatible, not on the store pages to do it digital, literally physical, and literally only in this box or a 360 box. That's it. So that makes my point for me. I'm glad this little guy was around. Let me know what you think. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.